No one is here interested in a pause in government funding. What we're interested in is taking the Biden boot off the neck of the American people. In the 5 weeks I've been gone, just give you a quick summary. Card check rolling out of the Department of Labor. The Department of Justice, of course, continues to prosecute their political enemies while leaving criminals run rampant across our streets. The president disrespected and insulted the people of Hawaii after their houses were burned down. Alejandro Mayorkas is literally daring us to impeach him. He can't be bothered with whatever the law says. The people that I represent, American citizens, are now being forced to compete against workers, people coming illegally in the form of hundreds of thousands every single month across our southern border. The people in the city that I represent, the capital city of Harrisburg, are dying from fentanyl this week, and there's not a damn thing being done about it. Not a damn thing being done about it. We are sick of the theater. We're tired of the Washington theater. Go home and tell them anything. Tell them we're working for them and all that stuff. Nothing we're doing is changing their lives. A government that tells you you can't buy the stove you want or drive the car you want is a government of tyranny, and there's no freedom in America. We're not interested in a continuing resolution that continues the policies and the spending of the Biden, Schumer, Pelosi era, and we're not going to vote for it. We didn't vote for it last December, and we're not going to vote for it now. So we're here to tell you the American people are sick of it. They can't afford their electricity bill. They can't afford the gas bill, and they damn sure can't afford the grocery bill.
We've had a 1.8% increase in our population since 2019. The budget's up 55%. Would anybody do that with a personal life? Nobody would do that. That's $400,000 of new spending per new person. This is unconscionable what they're doing. We're never going to get inflation under control. We've got now if you're going to get a mortgage, it's over 7.5%. If you're going to get a car, your interest rate's at the highest in 23 years. If you have a credit card, the highest interest rate on credit cards, I think, in history. So the Biden administration, their economics is hurting all of our families. I thank God for what the Freedom Caucus is doing in the House. If they wouldn't stand up, if they don't stand up, nobody's standing up. They stood up on the debt ceiling, and they fought for a great bill. Unfortunately, it didn't end up that way, but they fought for a great bill. We've got to stop this insanity. On top of that, in my state, we've had 2 hurricanes. I can't make sure the federal government's funded to even take care of disasters. And the federal Secretary of Agriculture won't even give money to my farmers and my ranchers for the hurricane 11 months ago.
Our founding fathers, in creating this country, created separation of powers. It is incumbent upon those of us with election certificates, particularly in the House of Representatives, but also the Senate, to stand up at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue and hold the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue and the executive branch accountable. A president and an executive branch that is out of control. My question for my colleagues, particularly my Republican colleagues, is when is it enough? When is it enough to stand up and do what you campaigned to do and use the power of the purse to stop this administration from trampling the American people? Spending is out of control. The federal government will spend $2 trillion more than it takes in this year to fund the very agencies and programs at war with the American people. Inflation is opposed to 17% across-the-board tax on Americans. We've added $1.5 trillion in debt since the so-called debt deal. We are now spending more on interest on the debt than we are in defending the United States of America. The Department of Defense is threatening our national defense by turning our military into a social engineering experiment wrapped in a uniform.
You can disagree with gravity, and it's not the fall that gets you, it's the sudden stop. Well, we're on a sudden stop with the economy here, folks. National issues of overspending, I'm tired of it. As this group behind me has said, and I'm not going to read you all the lists. Y'all know the overspending. But I'm tired of politicians campaigning on one thing and then and not having the courage to back it up. Anybody, any Republican, and I don't even mention the Democrats, I know they're bought and sold anyway. They're going to vote for this thing. Anybody that votes for a continuing resolution funds all of this stuff. That is absolutely insane and putting us in dire conditions. And how many people, as has been mentioned, have to die on the border? How many people have to get the phone call that I got? A good friend of mine's son was shot and killed. He was a police officer for 24 months. How long are we going to have to kick me on our back? Well, folks, now is the time. Now is the time that we stand up, and whatever it is, we got rolled on the debt ceiling. We're not going to get rolled again now.
You know, back in January, we fought to fundamentally alter the way this institution works. We fought to restore the People's House. And while we were successful in delivering transformational change, our fight doesn't end there. In the early summer months, we fought against the Biden-McCarthy Fiscal Irresponsibility Act because this spendthrift deal was disastrous for our nation's financial future. Now we're faced with the battle of funding the government. And just as before, we're not interested in giving up when the going gets tough. We're not interested in allowing Washington to revert back to serving the swamp instead of serving the American people. And we certainly aren't interested in rubber stamping the big government socialist agenda of Joe Biden, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi or their out-of-control spending levels and woke policies from the last Congress.